Hello, everyone. Okay, let's try to figure out this whole mystery and puzzle about free energy. What is free energy? Now, I have studied this subject and I've given some thought to it, and it does seem like there's there's an indication that the universe doesn't have any extra energy at all. There's no extra energy. There's just enough energy to power everything that's being powered, right? But there's no extra energy to run our free energy devices, right? Unless you have solar panels, unless you have wind turbines. But in terms of like energy in space, like the air that we breathe, just the space that is the air we breathe, is there really no energy in just in the air, right? Or is there infinite energy in the air? Just absolutely infinity, right? Well, a word comes to mind, and this is a word I came across while I was reading a book. And the book was just about energy, and it was about some of the greatest scientists in our history. And it turns out that it's a very popular subject. It may not be called free energy, but what we can call it is just studying the energy in the universe, right? And when I say in the universe, I'm talking about the space that we exist in and the space that is the air that we breathe. So let's begin with the word called renormalization. Right here, I did a search on renormalization meaning simple words. Renormalization, that's renormalization. The replacement of theoretically infinite variables, such as the mass and charge of an electron, with experimentally obtained values in the solutions of equations in certain quantum mechanical theories, such as quantum electrodynamics. Okay, so what do you think when you hear this? The way it was described in the book I was reading, first of all, I want to say that I have many books that are not they're not free energy books. They're just science books. And they're talking about the greatest minds in the history of our planet. The greatest scientific minds, philosophical minds, all the great thinkers that are talking about how there's a lot of energy in space, right? Now, the main argument against free energy machines is that there's no such thing as perpetual motion. That's one of the first things we hear. There's no such thing as perpetual motion. There's no such thing as perpetual motion. Maybe they should start teaching about the perpetual electron in preschool, so that when the kids grow up, we don't have to keep hearing people repeating, there's no perpetual motion. The electron is a fundamental particle. And it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. The electron has an infinite lifespan, and it doesn't break it down to anything smaller. That's how we describe that, as calling it a fundamental particle. It means it cannot break down to anything less. Does not lose its charge, stays, I'm going to say stays alive, right? Stays charged. An electron remains an electron. It doesn't become anything else, right? It stays an electron. Well, it can build up. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that everything's made up of electrons. Literally just made up of different kinds of electrons. Isn't that amazing? As if only made up by electrons. Now, I know that we have a lot of science that talks about, cells and the different kind of elements, the different particles, the different subatomic particles, and it just goes on and on. But it's an interesting idea that things can be made up of electrons in their entirety, just made up of electrons. as if my computer is just made up of combinations of different kinds of electrons, and materials are made up of different kinds of electrons, and human bodies, and even, right, if I'm understanding correctly, that everything's made up of just different kinds of electrons. That's a different theory, but but it's interesting if we think about the electron as being in perpetual existence, and that everything's made up of electrons. So in renormalization, it sounds to me like, this is just what it sounds to me, right? Now again, in school, my understanding of education is one of the goals that everyone has is to be able to take, I mean, I don't know if this is everyone's goal, but this is a goal that would be an ideal, under ideal, how do I say this? Ideal, sometimes it's hard, it's difficult to put things into words, but I think what I'm trying to say is that oftentimes people that learn a lot at very, very high levels of science want to find a way to translate complex ideas into simple words. Let me just do something to my phone real quick. I forgot to turn the phone on focus so that there's no interruptions in this video. I did notice that my phone, it's an iPhone, it will, if the alarm goes off, it'll stop my video and interrupt it. And I have to start a new video. I don't want that to happen. So I turned my alarms off, and I just pressed focus on the phone. So that should prevent any interruptions. Now the only interruption I have is just my own thought process, which I'm having right now, because I'm trying to think of how to say this to you and how to think about this. So the subject is free energy. Is there any energy in space, the space that we breathe, right? Is there any energy that could power a free energy machine, right? Now, I've come across a lot of experiments and theories of being able to extract energy directly from magnets. Magnets, in my study of Donald Lee Smith, Don talked about extracting energy directly from magnets. And he said it was so easy that it's just unbelievable. And everyone says this at the highest levels of discovery. Everyone says the same thing. They like, it's embarrassingly simple. It's so easy. But that's the way it seems like everything's real easy once we understand it. So how do we share with one another those discoveries of relating to something in a very simple way, right? And that just literally elevates the accessibility of complex ideas, right? Like, it makes things very accessible. Now, when I read this renormalization, because this was in a book that I was reading, where it talked about, it said I'm paraphrasing, which means I'm approximating what I read, but it sounded like they were saying that scientists just threw away the infinite energy because they couldn't quantify it. There was, the electron has so much energy. It really has all the energy in the universe because the entire universe is instantaneously and simultaneously connected. So if you tried to deplete the energy from an electron, the entire universe would be there to back up that electron, backup power supply, right? The universe will not let one electron lose its energy, the entire universe. So how much energy do you need? How much do you want? How much do you need? And that I imagine, I mean, if we have people like John Searle and Ralph Ring and Otis T. Carr, Thomas Townsend Brown, when you study electrogravitics, right? I think those systems are using that energy, the energy from electrons, to elevate, to lift something in space, and it can be controlled. precisely and exactly. So it's not just hovering around like out of control, right? It can be controlled. And if you study John Searle's work, you'll see that. There's a book. John Searle has books and research available that can be found. And a good place to study also is Tesla Tech. And I still haven't joined them yet, but that's something I do plan to do at some point in time, is to join Tesla Tech. I think it's a few dollars a month and then having access to all their videos. I think that's the way it works. I'm not quite sure how that works. But I know there's some kind of membership thing that lets you have access to more information. And I'm sure that helps them sustain themselves, right? Okay, so, and to continue the research they do, which is to, I think, to elevate the awareness, right? To bring science, to mature science beyond its infinite stages, right? Because science right now is very infant. It's very much in its infant stages, science. I mean, look what we're doing. We're throwing away energy with things like the renormalization because we can't quantify infinity. But we don't. But then people say there's no energy to power free energy devices, right? So maybe this video, in a way, is to help bring awareness to this fact right here. This is a scientific fact. Renormalization is a real word. It's a real process, right? So if the question is there any energy in space that could possibly be used to power a free energy device, I think this word comes to mind. This word kind of says, look, theoretically infinite variables, theoretically infinite. I'm seeing infinite energy there. I'm seeing all the other books that I've read that say that everything's connected. All space and time is connected. Let's go to some things that I wrote recently. Let's go under community here. Hopefully the Library of Congress has a copy of this DVD collection. This needs to be placed in all libraries, this collection here, Energy from the Vacuum. Disc 7 is one that's noted to be very important to study, I think, for charging batteries. That's important. That's brought up a lot. Okay, let's see. Thought experiment. This is talking about the heaviside component. Now, again, this is all thought experimental, right? But I'm just sharing my thoughts. And the question I have in my mind is, because someone will say to me, and I've heard this my whole life, I mean, most people know that there's infinite energy. Most people do. But it seems like there is people that think there's no extra energy in space. There's just not. As if somehow they learned, or they stopped learning, right? They learned a specific viewpoint and then stopped. They said, that's it, I'm happy. I'm happy with zero. I'm happy with no extra energy. But that conflicts with just my experience of looking out at the universe, just looking at this. They call it the gut brain, right? What does your gut tell you? What does your stomach tell you? The gut brain. You ever heard that? And the gut brain, along with many actual people around me when I was growing up, it seemed like there was more to life than zero. A lot more. So, based on lots of reading, I'm using some words that I've read that keep coming up. These words keep coming up and keep coming up, right? So I'm putting those words into kind of like sentences here as a thought experiment, okay? I'm trying to make sense of all this stuff, right? These are thought experiments. All this whole channel is a thought experiment. Let's see what this says here. Thought experiment. Also study the Oliver Heaviside component. The infinite magnetic flux fields. Infinite magnetic flux fields that are everywhere in space, right? actual and simultaneously virtual, right? I'm thinking of virtual particle flux fields, and then actual just being things we can touch, right? The material universe, right, is energy. It's pure energy. But it's, and that material universe powers the 0 point field, but somehow the 0 point field has 10 to the 40th times more energy density, right? That's my understanding. More energy density than the material universe. There's no shortage of energy here. I don't see a shortage of energy. I mean, it's kind of like when I think of like when when we were driving on the freeway, and there would be signs up that says conserve water, we're in a drought. And then on a rainy day, all the sprinklers in the city will be on. They'll still be watering the grass. And I'm just thinking, how did that get missed, right? And it's a miss. It's a big miss. Somehow we missed that, you know. Somehow there was a mistake made, an oversight, right? I'm not blaming the cities. I know everybody's busy. Everyone's doing their best. I know that. Just as I'm doing my best to understand this in my own mind. But I'm sharing with you my journey of trying to access understanding. Now, people will line up infinitely to help me understand that there's no extra energy anywhere. Just as people will line up infinitely telling me there is lots of energy. I look at both sides. I think that's very important. People that say there's no extra energy haven't even looked at the other side. They're just happy with that one viewpoint, that one very narrow, specific viewpoint, which excludes the way the universe works, the biggest part of it. I mean, someone told me they studied so much about electrons, and they studied free energy, and they're 100% certain there's no such thing as free energy, right? Someone was telling me this. This is like 10 years ago. You know, someone I met, they were talking to me, and they said they care a lot about energy. They're very passionate about it. And it was very convincing. I said, where does the electron get its charge? Where does the electron get its charge from? And they know what they said? I never thought about that. And they literally just stopped talking. Now, I wasn't trying to trap them or make them feel like they don't understand anything. I was just actually genuinely interested in what they might say. Where does the electron get its charge from? Right? I don't know where I was here, but let's go back to let's go up here. I think we're talking about flux fields. Okay, let's see. I'll start from the top. Also study the Oliver Heaviside component, the infinite magnetic flux fields, actual and simultaneously virtual, infinite sea of interacting electron pairs. Don Smith talked about electron pairs. He had a guest speaker speak about electron pairs. The guest speaker was a student at MIT that talked about electron pairs coming from the sun, just as Don Smith taught too, Donald Lee Smith. And you know, so it wasn't just Don Smith saying this. It was also a student who's highly educated. And we have people like, don't forget, we have people like Bruce De Palma, who also understood a significant amount about free energy, or we just say energy in space, everywhere, the space that we breathe, right? And he studied at Harvard, he studied at MIT, and he also taught at MIT. So Bruce De Palma was highly educated. And when we think of the Dirac Sea, which is this ocean of electrons, so D-I-R-A-C, and then a separate word is S-E-A, Dirac Sea, right? The ocean of electrons everywhere. That man was a Nobel Prize winner, just as Caltech's Richard Feynman, who said in an empty, I'm paraphrasing, but in an empty teacup, the space that is in an empty teacup, the space in that cup, has enough energy to vaporize all the Earth's oceans. And then I'm going to paraphrase here, but would also to power the whole planet without end. Because how fast does space repower itself? How fast, right? Our homes, electricity, we have 60 cycles per second here. So that's 60 cycles per second, right? We can say on, off, we can call it that, right? That's one way of saying it. The universe's cycles at 1 to the 120th. That's a 1 with 120 zeros cycles per second. Do you see how much faster that is? So the material universe, this whole computer here, is the matter that makes up this computer, is sustained if I understand correctly, right? And study Thomas Bearden to get these numbers and many others. 10 to the 120th. That's 1 with 120 zeros behind it. You can look up the name of that word, the word that describes that many zeros, and I cannot pronounce that word. I tried to, and I'm like, I'll just say the 10. I'll just say the way the book says it. 10 to the 120th. That's super high frequency, right? That's very fast. And then, so the material universe is sustained. It's charged, right? Matter is charged at that rate. And what else is charged at that rate? Because what matter is energy, right? And that energy also charges the 0-point field. That's my understanding. So it's a symbiotic relationship, right? Tom Bearden explained that very well. Let's continue here. Actual and simultaneously virtual infinite sea of interacting electron pairs throughout all virtual and actual space. Electron pairs created by stars, the sun, move together. And both Don Smith and the MIT student were saying this, right? And the MIT student had patents as well on inventions on models that he had made that describe how energy works, right? And this is approved by the patent office. So we're at a high level of awareness right now, and the patent office even is completely accepting of all these free energy theories, right? I'm going to say it that way because that's what we're talking about. The words free energy may not be used. I'm just using those words because we're talking about there being basically infinite energy. What else can you call it? We can say there's less than infinite energy, but to say that is not acknowledging what's actually there. What we do is when we say there's not infinite energy there, my understanding is we're saying, well, we can't quantify it, which means we can't put it in an equation because it's infinity. So we're just going to make it small so we can work with the numbers. But in actuality, as renormalization said, when I said renormalization meaning in simple words, I think that was the way I wrote it, but look back at the beginning of this video to see the way it was written. And it gave the description of infinite mass and infinite energy, right? Infinite. So how do you teach that in school when you're trying to, if school's based on, well, one way I see school is like in mathematics is what do you do with math when things are infinite, right? But think about this. There's civilizations in the universe that are hundreds of thousands of years older than us. That's a scientific fact. That's just an absolute fact, right? I'm saying it that way because I've read a lot about this. If you read a lot, you're going to see this over and over again, and it becomes very obvious that there's solar systems in the galaxy, in other galaxies, that are far older than ours, with Earth-like planets. And if life developed there similar to us, and these solar systems are hundreds of thousands of years older than ours, right? Because if the universe is 14 billion years old, then a few million years is not a big number in 14 billion, right? It's very small. So there can easily be variances of a few million years. And imagine how much more developed in travel, in philosophy and thinking. It's not hard to imagine that we have to stop fighting each other. That is so important. And we all have to work on that. We have to work on that. That's our homework every day and night. Dream about it and share what you see. How can we stop fighting? Not how can we improve how we hurt each other, right? That's weapons. Weapons are how can we make someone die faster, right? Do you think that changes anything? How many times have we heard the war to end all wars? How many times have we heard that? That's not how it works. War being worse than all the others doesn't make us stop fighting. We don't go, oh, we're going to stop fighting now because that was just so bad. We have to study how to get along. We have to study how to have peace within ourselves. We have to study how to de-escalate, how to collaborate, worldwide solution-oriented collaboration. It is necessary, and it's much more important than free energy. But many believe that free energy and the philosophy of not harming one another are both equally important. And that's why I'm going to talk about both. I'm always going to talk about both here, okay? They're both absolutely important. Now, I understand the idea of like, oh, well, we need to have a military and weapons to protect ourselves. I'm not speaking against that. What I'm speaking for is, I'm speaking for awareness and education worldwide that teaches the value of life and the value of de-escalation, right? Bringing things down. You want to see escalation? Go on YouTube. I'm sure many of you already have. And you see how what police are dealing with and law enforcement are dealing with, right? And many of the public you see in the videos don't respect the police, right? Those guys are putting their lives on the line and they're not being respected. And a lot of times the police will escalate really quick, right? Because they don't want to be disrespected. And they're so invested in their work, and the training is not teaching people how to de-escalate maybe enough, and it's bad. It goes in a bad way, right? But I think we were all taught to respect others, and I think that's very important. And we can always put ourselves in someone else's shoes, right? And I think that we each have a responsibility to ourselves and to the world and to existence to what I was saying, learning the value of life and learning how we can de-escalate, and how can we collaborate to build together, build communities together, build communication together, right? Build a more efficient world, right? Living longer, healthier. Study Aubrey de Grey, right? Reversing aging. That's his dream. He got into biology because he said, how come we're not studying the aging process and how to reverse it? And a lot of people say they don't want to live. They just want it over with. They're so unhappy that they won't take their life, but when they die, they're okay with that. But that's not the only way to live, right? Living to die is not the only way to live. And one of the first things people say is, if I ask someone if they can live forever, what they want to, is they say, oh no, because I wouldn't want to live unhealthy forever. That would be terrible. They couldn't imagine living healthy and a longer life, right? But my understanding of the way the universe works, the universe that we live in, is that you set your mind to something and you can achieve it. And it doesn't matter what it is. And that's why we have to be responsible with what we set our mind to, right? If we set our mind to destruction, we will destroy ourselves. If we set our mind to collaboration, we will improve the way that we collaborate together and the way that we build, right? So let's build communication, let's build efficiency, and let's build improvement. We naturally do this, okay? So where were we here? I'm going to start up here because I think I was somewhere up here. Electron pairs created by by stars, the sun, move together in a symbiotic motion. That is the infinity symbol, providing amps and volts while excited by weak, meaning milliamp, at very high voltage, such as the Tesla coil, magnetic and electromagnetic flux fields, always resulting in more energy out than is needed to excite the infinite electron pair's energy. Electron pairs also have an infinite lifespan and are powered by the entire virtual and actual universe. Virtual meaning zero-point fields, and simultaneously powered by the material universe energy without end. The heaviside component is said to account for dark energy, dark matter, and the missing energy that everyone agrees cannot be defined nor explained, and makes the universe almost impossible to quantify. How do we quantify infinity? Meaning, how do we put a number on infinity? How do we equate infinite? How do we equate that? And powers all free energy open system machines. The energy actually comes from all space and non-space simultaneously. If you like puzzles and treasure hunts, study the mysteries of the infinite electron pairs' hidden infinite energy. Hidden in plain theoretical sight. Smiley face. What shall we create today? I hope you have a wonderful day. And we got 4 likes on that one. Now, my teacher told me, you have something when no one likes it. But it's good to have people like it. It's okay. I'm okay with that. But if no one likes something, it's still okay too. Because my teacher said, when no one likes something, you really have something. But that's okay, because this is a journey right here, right? It's a journey of discovery, right? So, what else do we have? Let's look at this one. This is the meaning of the word perpetual motion. How's that sound? Okay, please excuse me for 3 minutes. I'll be right back. The screen might go to sleep. Okay, that was probably closer to 1 minute and 30 seconds, or 1 minute and 33 seconds, but let's proceed. Okay, so what do we have here? Thought experiment. This was written 3 days ago, edited. The meaning of the word perpetual motion threw away the good. What does that mean, threw away the good? Good equals perpetual motion machine requires maintenance. You ever looked up the word perpetual motion? And I mean, it's just embarrassing. Because every inventor that talks about perpetual motion just is, all they're saying is that once their machine is going, it keeps going. And then everyone jumps and makes fun of them. They jump up and attack. Not everyone, but a lot of people will attack and say, you're trying to tell us that it doesn't need maintenance. You're trying to tell us that it just runs by itself without needing bearings, and it doesn't ever need maintenance at all. And have you ever heard an inventor say that made a free energy machine? So free energy is connected to this word perpetual motion right away. When someone says, I made a free energy machine, and it goes beyond electrodynamics, right? Which is, that's the word I think of, which is, I think electrodynamics, at least it's implied that if I just say standard electrodynamics, it's implied, because there's many different kinds of electrodynamics as well, right? I think there's O1 group symmetry, O2 group symmetry. Tom Bearden talked about these, O3 group symmetry. So I think those are extended, maybe we can call it extended electrodynamics, right? I'm still learning how to think about all this. But I'm just going to say, that word comes to mind because that was also in that definition of renormalization. It said, such as, I think it said quantum electrodynamics, right? It said that. It was referring to that as if it's needed. We have to do renormalization so that quantum electrodynamics works. Otherwise, it doesn't work. We have to throw away all the energy in the universe. We have to throw away the universe. There has to be zero extra energy. There has to be a little bit of energy, just enough to maintain the material universe. But where's the energy coming that maintains it, right? I mean, I just have to look at what's actually there. I have to look at all perspectives. I have to. And that's all I'm doing here. I'm not even saying that what am I saying here? I'm saying that here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I've looked at all the different perspectives I can locate, and I'm sharing with you what I see, okay? That's what I'm saying right now. But anyone to say that there's no extra energy, that's inconsistent with my findings. Okay, that's completely inconsistent. Where were we here? Oh, okay. So if language is for the user, what does that mean? Language is for the user. If someone builds a machine that can run and keep running, I think it might be wise to say, would you call this a perpetual motion machine, to the inventor? If the inventor said yes, then the next question might be, well, tell me what you mean by using that word. Do you mean that it'll never need maintenance? Or do you just mean that it'll run like any other motor generator system, but it still needs all the maintenance that we know of that motors and generators require, meaning it will break down eventually, right? It might take 2 million miles. What's the lifespan of an electric motor? I was reading that an electric motor can run for 2 million miles. And I think that's when you have to change the bearings, but it might be before that. But 2 million miles. I'd be happy with the perpetual motion machine that required maintenance every 2 million miles. But even if it just lasted a month or a year between maintenance intervals, I would still be happy with that. So let's see, and we're talking about ordinary materials here. We're talking about magnets, copper wire, and it's the way they're arranged, right? That seems to be the significance. And the idea of less is more keeps coming to mind, because if we study John Bedini, he sometimes just had like one coil with a ferrous iron core with lots of magnets all north facing the coils as it spun, as the wheel spun, passing that coil, right? And he had his motor built in. It was built in a motor, and then there would be coils, separate wires on that coil that were the energizers, I'm calling it that, where that pulse, those pulses between, the magnets had to be about 5 inches apart from each other, and it's between those magnetic fields that the battery actually charges. If the magnets are too close together, the battery doesn't have time to charge. It doesn't charge when the magnet hits that ferrous iron metal. It charges when it leaves it. So less is more right there. Okay, let's see. Good equals perpetual motion machines require maintenance. While overstepping its reach to perfection, the perfect perpetual motion machine is not permitted to receive regular maintenance, nor any maintenance ever. Who says? When did the person that didn't even make the machine become the authority of how it will be described? And then on every instance, misrepresenting the technology. In every example, the only person that can speak for an invention is the inventor, unless he says this person is correct. If the inventor, he or she, says this person, everything they said, they studied my system and they can describe it perfectly, then that's different. But when the inventor and someone describing the inventor's work and the person describing it is saying, impossible, I don't understand how it works, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't fit into our laws, it's a mystery, and we're not going to support it. Or they just don't say anything and nothing ever happens. That's why I keep saying to the inventors of today, right now, all ages, teach the theory of how you relate to the way energy is working. That is absolutely necessary and absolutely essential. And it's being done. Everyone's doing that in the world already. I'm just talking about it. I'm saying it, right? People are just doing it already. They're just doing it. They know that people have to understand how a system works before they can understand what they're looking at. How are they going to know how something works by just someone saying, this is how it works, right? We have to explain the parts, right? That's maturity. Maturity is education, right? Education permits maturity. It permits us to grow. We have to educate each other. We need each other. That's why we need each other. Okay, we need each other. For many reasons, we need each other. For all the reasons that are most important. So, where were we? The perfect perpetual motion machine is not permitted to receive regular maintenance, nor any maintenance ever, although the universe maintains itself or is self-maintaining, maintained. Self-maintaining / maintained. If the universe is self-maintained, and its energy cannot be destroyed nor created, and the universe is a closed system, meaning it doesn't get its energy from anywhere else, right? The universe is a closed system, then it appears that the universe is a perfect perpetual motion machine. So if the universe is a perfect perpetual motion machine, then why do people walk around saying, you can't do what nature does, you can't? Is that what they're saying? They don't say it that way because they say even nature is not perpetual. But I'm saying right here, I'm saying this because this is based on my research and study. This is based on my experience, okay? The way I relate to what I'm learning, okay? And I'm sharing that with you because I learn when I share, right? That's maturity. I'm maturing right now by sharing this to you. That's maturity. You think maturities mean not sharing? I'm going to keep this to myself. Where do you think that's going to go? It'll be gone. I won't even have it. I only have what I share. And it expands, it grows. My understanding comes more clear and bigger. It just, everything is positive, right? By sharing it, I learn more. I see it from more perspectives. The more I share it, the more I learn about what I think I know. Okay, where were we? Then it appears that the universe is a perfect perpetual motion machine. However, if the universe is an open system, which means receives its energy from somewhere else, then it is a good perpetual motion machine. This is quite interesting indeed, smiley face. Meaning, if the universe is not a closed system, if it's getting its energy from somewhere else, outside of our universe, then it still qualifies as a good perpetual motion machine because it works, right? And if it is getting its energy from somewhere else, then it's very likely that our same universe is also powering that very place that it's getting its energy from, right? Because everything's symbiotic, right? My understanding of the way energy works is the 0-point fields charge the material universe, and the material universe charges the 0-point fields. So those two systems, those two kinds of energy, if I say it that way, maintain one another, sustain one another. Okay, that's my research and study indicate that. This is a thought experiment, okay? Okay, where were we? This is quite interesting indeed. Okay, and then I said, because we like voting, right? I said, I vote for good. I vote for good. I vote for experimenting with good replication of the way in which nature utilizes good energy flow. And then I said, the inappropriate and perverse overstepped reach for perfection threw away the entire energetic universe and said that only the perpetual motion machine itself is permitted to exist. Stating that the perpetual motion machine is not permitted to be powered by the perpetual wheelworks of nature's open supersystem. I vote for keeping the universe into the equation. In order to be perpetual, all perpetual machines must be powered by nature's infinite possibility / infinite inevitability universe. It is the nature of infinite potential. It is the nature of infinite potential, the very essence of the nature of infinite symbiotic energy flow. Infinite symbiotic energy flow potential equals the entire material universe and infinitely beyond is powered by empty space / cosmic energy / virtual particle flux fields / gravity waves / tachyon waves / dark energy / dark matter / infinite simultaneous 0-point fields / Dirac Z. That's the gentleman, that's a man, that's a Nobel Prize winner, Dirac, D-I-R-A-C. And the Dirac Z is a sea of electrons, a sea of energy everywhere, energy everywhere. And that man's a Nobel Prize winner. He knew what he was talking about. Now, these are theories, but everything's a theory, right, in science. Everything is theories and principles. All laws in science, all of them, are theories and principles. Okay, my research and study indicate that. And I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here when I say these things. All of this information comes from my extensive study of giants that spent a lifetime studying energy. And they were standing on the shoulders of giants. And they were standing on the shoulders of giants. It just keeps going, okay? Where were we here? So, let's see. It is the nature of infinite potential, the very essence of the nature of infinite symbiotic energy flow. Infinite symbiotic energy flow potential equals the entire material universe and infinitely beyond is powered by empty space, cosmic energy, virtual particle flux fields, gravity waves, tachyon waves, dark energy, dark matter, infinite simultaneous 0-point fields, and Dirac Z. While simultaneously, cosmic energy, 0-point fields, virtual particle flux fields, dark energy, dark matter, gravity waves, and tachyon waves, Dirac Z, are theorized to be powered directly by the energy that is the material universe. They power one another. The energy changes form and changes and changes and changes back and forth. That's a beautiful creation. That's creation, okay? Self-sustaining system, creation. And I said smiles are free energy open systems, smiley face. And I said actual potential and actual real. In this instance, potential equals actual, and potential and actual equal infinity. Actually, what shall we create today? I hope you have a wonderful day. Wonderful equals full of wonder, smiley face. 7 likes. That's a big number right there. Okay, this is talking about the Roger charger. He just came out with a 4 kilowatt charger for micromobility. One of the advantages of that is that you can charge multiple scooters at the same time as long as the voltage is all matching, meaning every battery has to be exactly the same voltage if you're going to plug them all into that at the same time. Or you can just charge a battery really fast, but you have to make sure you're not exceeding the limit of that battery's capacity. So here we're talking about, free energy. This is just some writing about, people will often tell me that they don't believe free energy is possible. We can talk about this. You want to talk about this? Sure, let's talk about it. This is a response to, I don't believe free energy is possible. And I said, my thought experiment reply as follows. And I said, I have read a lot about the subject of energy, and I read about energy from all of the different perspectives I could locate. Just yesterday, now this was written 4 days ago, edited. Just yesterday, someone was explaining to me, they were quoting Nobel Prize winner Richard Feynman, and also quoting former Princeton Professor John Wheeler, when talking about the megawatts, that's millions of watts, okay, of electrical energy available in every cubic centimeter of space. And they are talking about the space that we walk through and breathe, not just outer space. But the gentleman I was listening to yesterday also said he does not believe free energy is possible. And I have heard this before. This gentleman was stating that the energy in atoms can only be accessed by tearing the atom apart, which is, I think, what some weapons do, and releasing all of that energy or some of the energy which atoms contain. But I have also studied that atoms have energy all around them as well. I have read of this as flux fields. Some books theorize the flux fields are contributing to gravity waves, and some scientists theorize these flux fields are contributing to tachyon waves. Some scientists also think these atomic and subatomic flux fields are accounting for what many call dark energy or dark matter. I have read of many different perspectives on these atomic and subatomic particle flux fields, and these words that follow have all been used as descriptors, or these megawatts of flux fields available everywhere, including in empty space, which is said to be a sea of energy, Dirac sea, a theoretical ocean of electrons, to be theoretically accurate, some theories suggest. Atomic and subatomic particle flux fields are sometimes called gravity waves, tachyon waves, virtual particle flux fields, dark energy, dark matter, cosmic energy. And then here I added, and I think we read this, but I'll go ahead and read it again, because I made this into its own post here. Also study the Oliver Heaviside component, the infinite magnetic flux fields, actual and simultaneously virtual, infinite sea of interacting electron pairs throughout all virtual and actual space. Electron pairs created by stars, the sun, all the stars, right? We're talking about all stars, right? I mean, that's what I'm referring to when I say this. Move together in a symbiotic motion that is the infinity symbol, providing amps and volts while excited by weak, meaning milliamp, at very high voltage, such as Tesla coil, magnetic or electromagnetic fields, always resulting in more energy out than is needed to excite the infinite electron pair's energy. Electron pairs also have an infinite lifespan and are powered by the entire virtual and actual universe. Virtual meaning 0-point fields, and simultaneously powered by the material universe's energy without end. The heaviside component is said to account for dark energy, dark matter, and the missing energy that everyone agrees cannot be defined nor explained, and makes the universe almost impossible to quantify. How do we quantify infinity? And powers all free energy open system machines. The energy actually comes from all space and non-space simultaneously. If you like puzzles and treasure hunts, study the mysteries of the infinite electron pair's hidden infinite energy, hidden in plain theoretical sight. Smiley face. Note, no one agrees on these words as absolutely definitive. This is just a collection of theories and thought experiments, updated almost continuously. If my experiments resulted in a machine that output 1 watt greater than the energy that powers my machine, it would still not qualify as a perpetual motion machine, even if the machine could run for hundreds of years, outputting 1 watt greater than the machine required to run. This would be an open system, and the energy would in fact be coming from the environment. Called an open system. Solar panels and wind turbines are open systems. Atoms and subatomic particles are open systems because they receive their energy from somewhere else, which is the definition of open system. The reason a machine that outputs more energy than it requires to run, and in doing this for hundreds of years, and still does not qualify as a perpetual motion machine, is because the meaning of perpetual motion has unpopularly come to mean that the machine is never permitted to require maintenance. If we allow the perpetual motion machine, and meaning of the word, to have the bearings and any regular maintenance parts maintained as needed, then this would qualify as a perpetual motion machine. The meaning of the word perpetual motion threw away good and overstepped the reach to perfection. But if perfection is not a requirement, this is very important, right? Because perfection is not a requirement. It is not. And good means maintenance still required. Then we have successfully theoretically created, or allowed for the creating of, a good perpetual motion machine, thus accessing gravity waves, tachyon waves, virtual particle flux fields, dark energy, dark matter, cosmic energy, and or add your favorite thought experiments here. Smiley face. What shall we together create today? I hope you have a wonderful day. So, we can read this one as well. If you would like to study a free energy machine, I'm just calling it that, but this machine powers the whole city. If I understand correctly, it powers an entire city. A small machine. It looks like a Wimshurst machine, but it has larger capacitors, more collectors on it. And I think the energy myself, just my own thought experiment, I think the energy is actually coming from the magnets. I think that the Wimshurst machine itself is allowing maybe the flux fields around the magnets to be excited, and then that energy can be captured from the magnets, right? Because magnets have lots of energy, right? If you excite them, if we can excite the magnet, Don Smith said if we can excite the magnet at its frequency, whatever frequency a magnet is, right? Because magnets, different materials have different frequencies, right? I think that's what Don Smith was saying, because Don Smith did this as well with a magnet, just with a magnet. But in this instance, I think what they're using is, and this is just my own thoughts, right? I'm not saying this is the way it works, but if you look at the Methernitha testatica, you will see an interesting machine that literally is legally allowed to power a city, right? So when people say, oh, free energy, no one has it, why doesn't anybody have one? Well, that whole city has one, and they've had it for a long time. And it's been verified and confirmed that they have one, right? They even have a documentary, I think there's a 27-minute documentary about it. They show every single part of that machine. They share everything. Even though the narrator's saying it's a secret, look at the machine. It's all there. You see everything, okay? So take pictures of it, copy the video, save it for educational purposes, save it for yourself, study that. Study every part. And beyond, meaning whatever you study, don't limit yourself to what other people see. Ask yourself what you see, and then start creating based on what you see, right? We can never limit ourselves to someone else's interpretation of what they're seeing. And I know that there's a documentary out there, there's several of them, called Thrive. There's Thrive 1 and Thrive 2, and there may be more, but I know those two. I'm thinking of those two right now. And Thrive said that 95% of the free energy machines out there, they could not verify that they actually worked, but 5% absolutely worked. Now remember, if you go on the internet, if you just go on the internet, it appears that there's no such thing as any possibility of energy in space. So there can be no free energy machine. But people that actually have researched it, right, and are not basing that on a science that threw away infinity, right? You can't base possibility on a science that threw away the infinite energy of the electron, the infinite potential energy of the electron. Actual. Okay? You have to include infinity. And if you can't quantify it, just say that. Say, I can't quantify it, but it does work. You know, a free energy machine is obviously tapping into the energy fields that we're already using to power our houses, right? Everyone's already using a free energy system. Our electrical grid is a free energy grid. The energy going through the wires is free energy. Why? Because it's a pulse, right? It's the frequency. When you have pulses, my understanding is you have negative energy when you have pulses. Anytime you have a pulse, you have negative energy. And that's AC coming through there. Some people call it just really, high potential or pressure, right? And so some theories that I've read is that the energy is actually coming from the ground wire at our homes, and that the signal coming from the power station that we call the power station is really just sending us a signal that activates that energy, right? Think of all the material we just read, right? The weak magnetic field. It doesn't take a lot to activate that energy, right? So that free energy signal activates the energy here at our home in the ground wire and the air, right? Because the air is a ground as well, right? Air ground or ground in the ground. And so we pay for that. We're paying for that signal, So a lot of people are like, well, why don't I make my own signal, right? And activate the energy myself locally, wherever they are, right? So that's another option, And people do that with solar panels and with wind turbines as well. So these are all open systems, right? When we're dealing with free energy, we're always dealing with an open system. It means the energy is coming from somewhere. Okay, where were we here? So let's go ahead and read this to you. Let's go ahead and read this. I know you probably already read this, but let's go ahead and read it again. Thought experiment, 9 days ago. If the Wimshurst free energy machine is interesting to you, it may also be interesting to study the Methernitha testotica. That's METHERNITHA. And then testotica is TESTATIKA. Methernitha testotica device. The inventive community appears to offer an open invitation for the world to mature to a point by which this technology would harmonize with the present world rather than be in contrast to the harmonizing philosophy by which this machine operates. The Methernitha testotica machine is powered by the limitless peaceful coexistence of the nature of unlimited potential. John Wheeler and Nobel Prize winner Richard Feynman taught of the unlimited potential of the nature of the space we breathe and call air. We already utilize this energy in every way unimaginable. The time has come to peacefully coexist with one another. A world community of peaceful coexistence, whereby solution-oriented worldwide collaboration is taught at the same time we learn to write our name and date onto our schoolwork, meaning right away, right? That we learn these things. Education is everything. Education must include solution-oriented worldwide collaboration and realizing through education the value of life, where everyone's needs can be met because there really is enough for everyone. What shall we create today? I hope you have a wonderful day. And then it says, note, I propose the entire mature world, which includes everyone, contact the Methernitha community and request a small toy version of the Methernitha testotica machine to be created and made available for all students and world citizens throughout existence for purchase, for the purpose of advancing scientific maturity beyond its infant stages and well into the mature stages of understanding the harmony of unlimited nature's existence. The toy machine may produce an excess output of between 1 watt and not to exceed 100 watts. This proposal is subject to modification, improvement, and reconsideration without end. 8 likes, that's a big number. So, yeah, so there's a few ideas here, right? Look at this. This is the Roadrunner Pro. Highly recommend this scooter. 16 likes on that one. That's before I wrote it. This is a Roadrunner Pro prepared for its maiden voyage, right? What I want to do with this scooter is, I don't know if it will be back here above the between the seat and the wheel back here, or between the battery and the storage container up here. But put a few more batteries, and then run a motor between the 2 sets of batteries, and have I guess it would be higher voltage on the other set, right? So this voltage is 66 volts fully charged, right? So when this battery voltage drops down, I don't want to overcharge that. So once it goes down, maybe to half a battery, once it's down to like half a battery, whatever that is, whatever 50% is, and then have a higher voltage battery, which can be anything higher, but maybe 84 volts fully charged, right? Because I have another battery like that. But it could be a small battery. What my thoughts are is use something not with a big capacity, but with a high voltage. And then run that, what I would do is run the negative of that battery to the negative of this battery. I would have to have wires coming out of this battery, right? I have to connect to this battery somehow. I would have to think about how I'll do that. And then have the negative from one set of batteries connected to the negative of the other set of batteries, and then have the positive. It's called splitting the positive. The positive would go to a motor, like a brushed motor. It can also be like a pulse motor or something, I think it's called, and I'm still learning. I don't really understand all these words, but it would have to be something that I think it has to have 2 wires, and ideally it'd be brushless, and maybe that's what a pulse motor is called. But I might just use something, if I can't get it to work with a brushless one, I might just use a brushed motor. And it can be something as simple as just like this little motor here, right? See how those 2 wires? And what I would do is, on that positive wire that's going between my 84 volt battery and my 66 volt battery, which will be down to like 58 volts probably at the time, and then run that wire, that positive wire, through this. So cut these 2 wires, connect one side. I guess I would go into the positive, I think it is. So the positive would go into the positive, and then this negative would then go to the other battery's positive, right? It's called splitting the positive, right? And then this thing will spin, and whatever energy it takes to spin this is how much this other battery, the high voltage battery, will be charging this here. So if it took like 1 amp to spin this motor, then they would be charging this battery at 1 amp approximately. And it's a way of extending the range, okay? And that's supposed to be most efficient when we use like a brushless motor, and that's had some parts taken out of it, and I still don't understand that process. But I'll share with you the journey of my learning about that, okay? When I get there, I'll share that journey with you. So I'm also interested in powering a scooter with the Wimshurst machine, and that may happen one day. But at this time right now, I'm going to begin. I think I'll begin with the way I was describing to you. So where were we here? Yeah, Roadrunner Pro, that's available at Voro Motors. They have those there. I've been writing and talking a lot about graphene batteries, and my request is to study graphene batteries, and I'm talking about study graphene batteries. I don't know how to say this, because there's always going to be people saying that we're not ready for something. And my understanding is that we've been ready for graphene for like 15 years. And I think a year or two ago, Elon was saying that graphene will be ready, that he'll be using graphene. I think he said this. There's a video on it, or a couple videos on it, where he said they'll be using graphene in a year or two. Or I think he said a year. And that was a year ago, at least 1 or 2 years ago. Here's the thing, though. There's always research being done for other batteries, And there's always going to be a more promising technology than something that we've already found to be really good. And I think it's important that if graphene is much better than lithium, that we should make that transition and not say, oh, but there's this more promising technology that's even better than graphene, but we have to study it for like another 10 years. Are we just going to keep using lithium until then? That doesn't make any sense. So it's fine to study things, but let's make that transition to graphene. Let's do it. We're ready for it. I mean, think about this. This is a lithium battery. These still catch fire. These can catch fire, right? Things can go wrong. And I was finding out that even the best batteries, the really best companies that make these batteries, there still can be cheap materials in them, and there can be complications with them. That can still happen. And I've learned this from talking with people that know much more than myself. And so, you know, graphene does not have fire hazards. Graphene is it has a much more cycle life. So instead of like 1,000 cycles where you start to lose capacity, graphene can do 20,000 cycles or 30,000 cycles or more, and has a greater energy density, and it's a safer technology. I'm so excited about graphene, and I'm looking for different possibilities of who am I going to buy a graphene battery from. I wrote Rumble Motors, RUMBLE. I wrote them. I sent them my specifications. I wrote them, I think, 2 or 3 times now, at least twice. And I haven't heard from them, so I don't know if they're just really backed up, but they also have a phone number, so I might just call them at some point. I wanted to get a quote for a battery replacement for the Roadrunner Pro. Ideally, it would be at least a 45 amp hour battery instead of a 30 amp hour. So if I can do that, I'll do that. And if I can go higher voltage, that would be nice too, because it's a 60 volt system, 66 volts fully charged. If I can go to a 72 volt nominal, 84 volt fully charged, or 84 volt nominal, 95 volt fully charged, that would be nice too. This scooter here that this computer is sitting on right now is a Dualtron Storm Limited, which has a 84 volt nominal, 95 volt fully charged, 45 amp hour battery. And I'm interested in taking this battery out as a possibility and putting it in the Roadrunner Pro and just seeing if it'll fit in there, because I'm really happy with the with that voltage and capacity battery. So that's exciting too. But I really like how we can fast charge graphene. Graphene can be charged at 120 amps. This scooter, the Roadrunner Pro, came with a 3.5 amp charger, and you can buy a fast charger, they call it, that charges at 10 amps. But micromobility and the auto industry, but I'll talk about micromobility right now. All electric vehicles, anything that's using lithium right now, could benefit from using graphene. So I 100% support graphene, and I hope that you can do the research and also make the phone calls. Say if you like graphene, you think, you know what? Yeah, not having a fire hazard, being able to, even if you could pick one thing you like a lot about it. Let's say that never have to worry about the battery catching on fire. If that's a reason for you to go to support graphene, that's enough. You don't have to fast charge. Just because graphene can be charged in like less than 30 minutes at 120 amps instead of 10 amps, right? And if that's not interesting to you and that doesn't help you because you don't need fast charging, that's fine. You could pick one reason you like it. How about how many people don't like lithium because it's hard to get, right? It's not that easy to get lithium, right? Graphene's abundantly available. You could pick one reason, or you could pick every reason. Make phone calls, write companies, say you want graphene, please bring us graphene, and support the companies that make graphene right now. I think Maxwell is making graphene capacitors, graphene supercapacitors. Be very careful with those. I think I saw a 500 farad, and I think 1 farad is 1,000 watts equivalent. So what would that be? I mean, let's see. 1,000 watts is 1 farad. So what's 500 farad? That's 500,000 watts. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely have to be careful with that technology, right? That's a lot of energy. But I think it's a low voltage, right? I think those are low voltage batteries. But they could be wired in series, and they're heavy. I don't know how heavy they are. That's a big battery, though. But they're very energy dense. Okay, so Maxwell has batteries. We can check and see what they have. I'm going to be looking around, and I was thinking, the RC car industry, the RC industry, RC airplanes, RC remote control, 1/8 scale, those scale, the little vehicles, the little electric vehicles. Those little toy cars and airplanes are using graphene mixed, I think. They think they're mixing it. So some parts are graphene and some's lithium. They're mixing it together. And when I say that, you have to research that for yourself. But I think those, even though those are not a full graphene battery, right? Because I'm interested in full graphene, the highest quality and pure graphene to its purest and highest quality abilities, which I think is what Rumble Motors is doing, or was doing. I don't know what they're doing right now, because sometimes companies, they come and go, right? Is Rumble Motors here to stay? I don't know. I don't know where they are right now. I don't like when a company doesn't get back to me, and it's been quite a while already. It's been several weeks that I haven't heard from them, so I'm just hoping they're real busy. But I feel like someone should be able to get back to me and at least tell me, hey, we're working on this. We'll see what we can do, right? Let's see what happens, though. Maybe they're just too busy. But I'm still looking too. I'll look. I would like to promote Rumble Motors' product, meaning just I'm going to talk about them as long as they're here. But whatever I find, I'll share with you. And if I could find a company that's using some graphene and still using some other materials, but it doesn't have all the benefits of graphene, but it still allows faster charging, that could still be good. If I could charge it like 80 amps or 50 amps or 40 amps, that's still great, right? So I need fast charging myself. That's something I need. And we don't have to sacrifice cycle life and capacity. We don't have to sacrifice capacity. If we need fast charging and lithium can't handle it, then we need to find a battery that can do it, right? It makes no sense to keep using lithium when you have a lot of people that need fast charging, and fast charging lithium harms the battery. That's not meeting the needs, right? You have to meet the needs of the customer. And if the customer needs fast charging, then what do we do about it? We go to a battery that can handle it, right? So that's my thoughts, so I'm going to keep looking for graphene. And if you see something, make a video of it, share it. Say graphene for micromobility, and I'll study the video. I'll even make a playlist for that. I'll put it in the playlist if you make videos on that. So we don't have to worry about impossibility, because we already know that we specialize in overcoming impossibility, right? We on Earth specialize in overcoming impossibility. We've always done it. We've been doing it throughout our history. Okay, so what else is there? What else do we have here? Okay, so we read this to you, the Methernitha testotica, which is really exciting. Okay, let's look at, let's have a look at, let's see if we could figure out, okay? Now, I've shared with you a lot of information based on my research and study, right? Let's start from the top. Let's start from the beginning again. Let's start over and just go on Google right now. And let's see if we can figure out where the electron gets its energy from. Let's figure out if we can find that free energy, that unlimited potential, right? Let's see if we can find that by trying to find it together. How's that sound? That sound good to you? So let's do that. Let's go here. And I'm going to type in... let's type electron. Meaning. Let's do that. Electron meaning. Now, in the past, when I was learning about energy and I came on Google and I tried to read about anything related to energy, I always felt more confused after trying to learn about it. I never knew more or never had more clarity after reading on Google. I'm not blaming Google. I'm just saying, for some reason, the information that's available never helped me understand. This is Oxford Languages, it says, the dictionary. Dictionary definitions from Oxford Languages. Electron, a stable subatomic particle with a charge of negative electricity, found in all atoms and acting as the primary carrier of electricity in solids. That actually sounds pretty good to me. I mean, look at that. Found in all atoms and acting as the primary carrier of electricity in solids. Okay. All right, let's open a new window and say, let's say, where does the electron get its charge from? How does that sound? Where, or I'll say, what charges the electron? What charges the electron? And I'll say simple words. Okay, let's see if that helps us, right? Because kids want to understand where energy comes from. And all of our job, I'm just going to say this right now, it's our job, whatever we specialize in, to explain things, to master something so well. And Einstein talked about this, right? He said when you really understand something well enough to explain it to a child, and the child can understand it to you, and they can explain it back to you, then you know you understand it well, right? And sometimes, I know there's famous people that go around teaching kids things, but I'll tell you something, I've never understood not one of those. So those kids must be smarter than me, because I've never understood not one example of those, not one. I never had more clarity of something after that was explained on those people that do that, you know. And I'm not putting anybody down, I'm just saying I couldn't understand a word they said. What charges the electron? Simple words. Let's see what comes up. Okay, let's see if the confusion begins now. I mean, I hope it's not confusing, but it always has confused me in the past. The electrons of an atom are attracted. Okay, that's not what I asked. Attracted? I just said, where does it get its charge from? I'm already getting nauseous right now. I'm getting nauseous. my gut brain is it's making me feel like throwing up right now. I don't know why I have that reaction. I just feel sick. I'm going to read this. I don't know if I can. I'll try to. The electrons of an atom. Now, what was my question? What charges the electron? Simple words. Can we just talk about what charges it? Why can't I get a simple answer? Right? That's what I want to know. Why can't I get a simple answer? Out of all the brilliant, genius people we have on this planet, and I'm not putting anybody down, why can't we have a description on Google, at least one, that says the electron gets its charge from this, right? Where does it get its charge from, right? And I'll just say right now, I think the electron where does the electron get its charge from? Well, it gets it from the whole universe. My research and study indicated the electron is powered by the entire universe. The entire material universe. The electron is a subatomic particle, right? The entire material universe powers the electron. And does the electron power the entire material universe? That's a question I'm asking myself too. The electrons, now they're telling plural, electrons plural, right? More than one. I'm trying to make it real simple. Just tell me what charge is one electron, just tell me one. But they also say the whole universe is one electron, right? The electrons of an atom are attracted to the protons in the nucleus of the atom. If the number, what are we talking about? What? If the number of electrons is equal to the number of neutrons, then the atom is electrically neutral. This is not answering my question. Okay, this is not answering my question. Is it? It's not. I mean, I don't feel like it's answering my question. If an atom has more or fewer electrons than the number of protons, then it has an overall negative or positive charge, respectively. Okay, my question was, what charges the electron? Simple words. Let's try it again, because I don't understand one of this word, not one of that. This doesn't feel like it's answering my question at all, okay? What charges the electron? I'm going to write that, and I'll take simple words out and see if it accidentally makes it simple for me. Let me see if I can just click on that. That was nice. It gave me the same definition. It says charge of electron, elementary charge, value, units. Let's go down and see what else there is. What is the charge of an electron? Simple. What is the charge of an electron? Well, the charge of an electron is infinity. But let's see what this says. Okay, they're giving us numbers. See, they're trying to quantify infinity. That's what this is. So I think everything we're seeing here is after renormalization. Meaning, if you quantify, you can't quantify infinity. So we just say, well, we're going to make it fit into an equation. That just, I mean, that's like if I bought an electric car and I said, what's the range of this electric car? And the electric car had infinite range, right? But, so the electric car had infinite range. Let's say the electric car had infinite range, right? And, but the, who is it that puts the range, that writes the, is it the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency? I can't think of who it is, but someone does a test where they say, this is the miles per gallon equivalent, or this is how far the car can go. So let's say there's a an agency that says you have to give us a number. You can't say infinity. You have to give us a number. And so if that's the case, then the automaker might say, okay, well, we have this electric car. It goes infinite miles, but we have to make up a number. How do we make up a number? We can't. Do we just put infinity? Do we put the infinity symbol on there? Like, you know what I mean? Like the electron pairs do, right? The infinitely moving, right? So how would that be? So I guess someone does an experiment in the lab, and they drive the car around for, well, there's gas cars now, right? There's gas cars now. So we're like, oh, well, the gas car can go, there's some gas cars that can go like 600 miles on a tank of gas, and there's some that can go like 200 or 300 miles. Well, let's just go between those two numbers maybe, right? Just make something up, and we'll say, let's say it can do let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it can do like 3, 450, like 450. Is that in the middle somewhere? 450 miles. And then they come back and say, yeah, well, this can get the 450 mile MPGE, right? Miles per gallon equivalent. Or no, I'm talking about different things now, because MPGE, miles per gallon equivalent, is different than, that might be a different number than how far can the car go on a full charge, right? So if the group that evaluates the car is not willing to make up a new measurement system which can include unlimited range, and the automaker has to give a number, infinity's not a number. So they would have to make up a number, which would not be an accurate representation of what the electric car can actually do. I'm saying if an electric car had an infinite range, right? So, let's read this again. The electrons of an atom are attracted. No, I'm not going to read it again, because that doesn't make any sense to me. Let's take another step. Well, okay, I tried to find out what charges the electron. Let's write it a different way. Let's say this. Where does the electron get its energy from? How does that sound? That sounds simple, right? Photons. So I said, where does the electron get its energy from? Photons. And it says, now this is coming from nde-ed.org. It sounds like it's educational. Okay, physics, atom, elements, electrons, physics of non-destructive evaluation, NDE. What is the source of energy for electron? This is a question. Let's see what that says. There can be, now let's see what this one says. There can be the triboelectric effect. Notice how I'm asking a simple question, but they're using words that you have to, it feels like you have to be, you have to know what these complicated words mean. So now we have to look up these words. See, I'm not seeing anywhere in here the simplicity where a child can access this understanding. Okay, I don't see it. So how smart are we as a civilization if we can't even, if our supercomputer system, which all the great minds in the world have access to put their information on here, and this is as good as it gets. When I say, where does the electron get its charge from? I have learned that the electron gets its charge from the entire universe, both the material universe and the virtual zero-point fields, right? Virtual particle flux fields, zero-point fields, cosmic energy, dark matter, tachyon waves, gravity waves. These are all the words that keep coming up interchangeably, right? These words are used interchangeably. And one question I have is, does all these words have the same meaning? Meaning that we're talking about the same thing, right? But we are talking about infinity. I don't see it anywhere here, though. I don't see C renormalization. I feel like that should be referenced in here, you know. But let's see what this is saying. Again, I'm feeling nauseous right now because I just want a simple answer, and I'm not getting it at all. Let's see what this one says. There can be triboelectric effect, which creates static electricity, and they gain kinetic energy by the rubbing. Or strong electric fields can extract outer electron and free them, again by electromagnetic exchange. Then they gain their energy from the electric field we supplied. I don't see a word about infinity in here anywhere. Remember renormalization, where it said the electron? Where's our renormalization at? Let's go over here to renormalization, where it said renormalization, the replacement of theoretically infinite variables such as the mass and charge of the electron with experimentally obtained values in the solutions of equations in certain quantum mechanical theories such as quantum electrodynamics, such as theoretically infinite variables. Now, someone could say, oh, well, the infinite variable is just like, it's just the charge is always moving, so it's changing too much. But my understanding is that it's absolutely infinity. It's literally infinity, theoretically infinite. It's not just a variable, it's an infinite capacity. That's my understanding of it. Let's go back to this word here. For example, are we at the top? Yeah, photons. So when I said, where does the electron get its energy from? It said, the first response was, and it says there's 436 million results, right, in half a second, 0.5 seconds. For example, as electrons gain energy from photons, small bundles of energy, they might move from the second to third energy level shell. Then, as they lose energy by emitting photons, they might move back to the second energy level shell, or even to the first energy level shell. Now, I can see if we're reading just these kind of words here, there's no indication of any extra energy being anywhere. What I'm sensing is there's only what we put into something. But we didn't power the universe. The universe powers the universe, right? And there's infinite energy. Even though we're quantifying it by saying, these are quantifications when I say, and I'm not talking about this, but when I'm talking about what I've studied myself, which I've studied this and I've studied beyond this. I didn't just study this, right? Because this, I wasn't getting anywhere with this. I couldn't find anything in here that was useful to what I was relating to when I looked at other viewpoints, right? There was like an inconsistency. Now, if I'm trying to understand how free energy machines work, I'm not going to get there by looking on Google and just looking up where does electrons get a charge from, where do subatomic particles get their charge from. I have to study people that have actually made free energy systems, written about it, and theorized about what they think is happening, right? Tom Bearden is one such gentleman. John Bedini is one such gentleman, right? There's many, many others. There's millions of people experimenting on the internet. Now, if you watch Thrive 1 and Thrive 2, THRIVE, if you watch Thrive, the gentleman in that movie that made that film, if I understand correctly, the gentleman that made that film said that he found that 95% of free energy machines did not work properly. But 5% absolutely worked. 5% absolutely worked. So what does that mean? Does that mean does that mean that 95% are intentionally trying to like scam people and make money off people when they don't even have something? Or does it mean that their system works but no one can explain how it works, so they're not going to support it? They're not going to say it works because they don't know how it works. And then 5%, there's actually a theory of how it works, right? Is that what it means? So they can prove that it works by showing it, demonstrating it, and then taking it apart, putting it together, making it work again. And maybe there's a theory of how it works. So that's the 5%, right? That could be that. But you know, even if one free energy machine worked, we know that there's something there, right? If we know for sure that one works, and 5% is significant, right? That's a significant number, and it's a lot more than zero, right? 5% is a lot more than zero. So, okay, what else can we look for here? So we're talking about photons, and again, we have to look up what is a photon. Want to do that? Let's go on this rabbit hole, I guess. Now, again, I'm feeling nauseous because I'm not getting, this doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, what? What are we talking about? I said, where does the electron get its energy from? It says photons, for example. Okay, let's see if there's any other. Let me just see if that might be one place it gets energy from. I'm not saying this is wrong, but this is certainly not telling me the whole story. I want a very simple and complete story so that I can relate to. Where do electrons get their everlasting circulating energy? See that? Where do electrons get their everlasting circulating energy? Now, circulating is another word in a replacement for perpetual, right? But we can call it circulating, that's fine. You want to call it circulating? Fine. Everlasting, no end, right? Should we look at that? Let's look at that. Let's see what happens if I open this, if it'll even open. Sometimes things just don't open. You have to like join something or something like that. It wants me to accept cookies. I'll say necessary only. Where do electrons get their everlasting circulating energy? We all know, or maybe know, that to move we need to spend energy. If you want to drive a car, you got to spend gasoline. And this is the entire universe, really, right? Because the entire universe takes energy every moment to keep going. But we act like there's just enough energy to make it to exist. But actually my perception of it is that there's constantly energy sustaining all the molecules, all the atoms, all the subatomic particles, and all those subatomic particles that sustain every atom, that makes up every molecule, they're all interacting with the zero-point field. And let's read about the zero-point field. Let's see if we can remember to do that. Let's read this first. Actually, let me just do this real quick so I don't forget. We're going to read about the zero-point field right now. I mean, in a moment. Zero-point field meaning simple. We'll come back to this, okay? We all know, or maybe know, that to move... Okay, where was I? We also know that energy can't be created, right? We also know that energy can't be created. Also, we know that in energy transformation, in real world, almost some of or part of it's converted into heat produced because of the friction between motion bodies. For example, part of the gasoline of a car is burned to overcome car's friction with air, and thus would be converted into heat and won't serve any movement at all. Now a question has obsessed my mind. How electrons circulating around nucleus forever? Where does electron get its energy from? It's a good question, right? Oh boy. I'm already feeling nauseous. Okay, if you want to drive a car, you gotta spend gasoline. Where's the answer at? Or there's 5 answers. There is a basic misunderstanding, it says, of elementary classical physics in your question. So it sounds like he's being accused of having a misunderstanding. This is common, right? We attack the person that asked the question. There's a basic misunderstanding of elementary classical physics in your question. It says we all know, or maybe know, that to move we need to spend energy. And then he says, I feel like throwing up right now. I'm getting nauseous. I apologize. This is just so nauseating to me to not have clarity. I require clarity. I require that. Simplicity, clarity, truth. That's how my brain works, and that's why when I share what I share with you, it's coming from a place of studying where I'm looking for how can I understand this in a simple way. Otherwise, I could just repeat all the things that everybody says, and then I sound like this, right? But that doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, it says the velocity of a body remains constant unless the body is acted upon by an external force. Well, now that's saying like it sounds like anything can be perpetual if nothing slows it down, right? Okay, so it says there's no need to spend energy to keep on moving unless external forces are acting on the body. Oh gosh, that just made me really nauseous. So there is no need to spend energy to keep on moving unless external forces are acting on the body. Electrons around a nucleus are not a classical problem, but conservation of energy holds also in the quantum states. I don't know what we're talking about right now. The electron around a nucleus is in a quantized energy level and can change it only if an external interaction intervenes. I thought wasn't the question where does it get its charge? Is he answering that? I don't see an answer here. I'm sorry, but I don't see an answer. It is quantization that guarantees this, since in the classical problem of a charge circulating around an opposite charge, there would be continuous radiation, which would have made the electron fall into the nucleus, Quantized energy states for the electrons are necessary for atoms to exist and were first proposed by Bohr, B-O-H-R. Subsequently, quantum mechanics became a full-blown theory and needs years of study to assimilate it. So I think he's saying you need years of study to sound like this, which means to not answer this question in simple words, right? That's what I'm saying. So you got to study for years so you can write like that and still not be able to ever answer a question when someone asks this question. The best we could do is answer it the way that person answered it, right? Now, I'm not criticizing or putting that person down. I'm just saying I want a simple answer. And if an answer is not simple, I question that. Einstein said it. If you can't explain it in simple words, you may not understand it as well as you think you do. And that person's asking us to do a lot of memorization. This is what I think. This is what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing that gentleman, that person, is saying you got to study this for years before you'll understand, how to not answer the question. That's what I'm seeing. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I'm just sharing my experience. What's this? This is the one we just read. Let's see if someone else had something simpler to understand. So does this mean that if hypothetically we consume energy of electron little by little, its speed will slow down? Good question. Also, does this mean that there is no energy wasting, like friction, in the level of an electron? Does electron rotate in an absolute empty space? We cannot change the energy of the electron hypothetically or really, except by the allowed transitions from one energy level to another. That is what quantization means in the microcosm. There is no energy incoming or outgoing in the system, nucleus electron. What? This totally, just saying right now to you, just myself, this completely contradicts what I've studied. If I just studied what this person's telling me to study, I would probably sound just like this, and then none of you would probably understand me, or those of you that studied this would say, yeah, he gets it, but I wouldn't get it. That wouldn't make sense, because what I've studied is that space itself is a sea of energy. We're Dirac sea, right? And space has more energy than the material universe. And the material universe and space interact with each other. And to quote Tom Bearden, I think this is an exact quote, or I'll call it a paraphrase, is he said that all subatomic particles are interacting with the 0-point field. Now let's go to the 0-point field. Let's go over to that right now. And let's see what this says, right? Because I just said 0-point field, right? The 0-point field, my understanding of the 0-point field is the 0-point field has 10 to the 40th times more energy density than the material universe. Because the material universe, the material, right, the ground we walk on, our bodies, everything that's material, including atoms and molecules, right? I think that's what we think of as material, right? Is the elements. That's material. That the material universe is entirely powered 100% by the 0-point field. It's entirely powered by the 0-point field, okay? The material universe. Now, I'm still understanding and learning what that means, but this is maybe we can call it a conclusion or a working theory, but it's based on having read a lot about these subjects from all different perspectives, right? From as many perspectives as I could locate. And guess what? Where do you think the 0-point field gets its energy from? Based on my research and study. The 0-point field is entirely powered by the material universe. That's why I call it a symbiotic system, or I guess you can call it perpetual motion, right? The material universe powers the 0-point field, and the 0-point field powers the material universe. They power one another. But yet, even though the 0-point field gets all of its energy from the material universe, at a rate, you know what time they charge one another? They power one another, one another being material universe powering the 0-point field, 0-point field powering the material universe. They power one another, they charge one another at a rate of 1 to the 120th, right? 1 with 120 zeros times a second. That's cycles per second. That's how fast that's moving. That's so fast. Let's see what this says. It says ZPF basics. So I said 0-point field meaning simple. Let's see if this talks about anything about what I just said, right? I had to read a lot of books to say what I just said to you. I studied a lot to have the theory, to put this theory together. And I'm not saying I put it together. I shouldn't say I put it together. How can I say this? The perception that I'm sharing with you comes from research and study. My research and study indicate what I'm saying to you, okay? ZPF basics, 0-point field. In quantum field theory, the vacuum state is the quantum state. Hang on, I already forgot my question was. My question was 0-point field meaning simple. Okay, that's fine. Let me do a new question right now. I'm going to put a new question up. I'm going to say, where does the 0-point field get its energy from? Let's see if it talks about what we're talking about, right? Where does the 0-point field receive its energy from? I'll say simple words. I mean, material universe is about as simple as it gets, right? Let's see if it says that, though. I just want to see. Let's see. Where does the 0-point field receive its energy from? Simple words. So now it's pulling Wikipedia up. 0-point energy, it says. Okay, let's go down a little bit and say, where does Oh, right here. Look what someone said. Where does 0-point energy come from? Very good question. Now we're kind of skipping ahead here. Okay, but let's go ahead and look at this. We'll go back still. 0-point energy results from. Now hang on a second. The question the person said was, where does 0-point energy come from? 0-point energy results from. Is that the same thing, results from? Principles. So I find that we're often referencing some kind of, maybe we can call it like a philosophy of a body of understanding. But I just want a simple answer. Why do we have to say, oh, it's, principles of quantum mechanics? What? Well, not everybody knows what the principles of quantum mechanics are. How do you answer this question without saying, well, you got to go study quantum mechanics for years? Anyway, let's read this. 0 point energy result. Einstein would not be satisfied with that. Einstein said if you cannot explain it to a child in a way that they can explain it back to you, you may not understand what you think you know as well as you think, right? That's a paraphrase. But we have to be able to explain things in a simple way, okay? And like I said, the famous examples of that where people go around having kids, and I'm not talking about everybody, I'm sure there's some that I missed, but I've watched a lot of those videos a child will, a teacher or someone will explain to a child these big concepts about energy and about the universe, and the child, is like, they're explaining this idea, and I'm sitting there thinking, I don't understand a word of this. So Einstein said the child has to be able to explain it back. That's my understanding, is that in my understanding is that the child has to be able to explain it back to you. And meaning explain it back in a way that includes the full body of research, not just these words of quantum mechanical systems and other bodies of research, but actually includes all perspectives, right? Including the perspectives I'm talking about, right? I've studied a lot of material to be able to say what I say to you when I talk about the 0 point field powering the material universe and the material universe powering the 0 point field. But I don't see that here. How come that's not being said here? I still don't understand what I'm reading. Do you? Maybe you do. I don't know. I don't. 0 point energy. This is Wikipedia. Now, let's see. 0 point energy is the lowest possible and what? The lowest possible energy? This has more energy than the material universe. How is it the lowest possible energy? That a quantum mechanical system may have, it is also known as ground state energy. What? What are we talking about? I cannot understand this at all. I'm really getting a headache right now, actually. So let's read this again. Oh, goodness. Where does 0 point energy come from? 0 point energy results from principles of quantum mechanics, the physics of subatomic phenomena. Should the molecules ever come completely to rest, their component atoms would be precisely located and would simultaneously have precisely specified velocities, namely of value 0. That made no sense to me at all. Okay, no sense at all. Now, Gerard Morin spoke of when you just he was saying if you just read, how was he saying it? I think he's, I'm not quoting him exactly, but if you go on, my understanding of what he was saying was if you just go on the internet and just randomly read, how do we understand free energy? We're not going to get there through, at this time right now, we won't get there through just doing a Google search or looking in textbooks. But if we study people that have written books on free energy, we will definitely be able to see more of what's going on. And that just makes sense, right? That does make sense. Let's see what this says. Let's see. Zero-point energy results. Yeah, that's very confusing to me. I mean, this is so different than what I've been studying myself, because this really sounds like there's no other energy. There's no extra energy there. That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, really? There's no energy? Let me get a couple books I have that will help you if you want to. If you'd like to study this more from other points of view, and then maybe you can help update Google too. But let me get a couple books I have that will help expand the education here, expand it. If I can find the books. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to need a couple minutes. Excuse me for about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, I'm still here. Just looking for a flashlight. Okay. Okay, I'm still looking. I found one book. Let's see. Here's one book I found. This is just, because I read a lot of books, but this is just one book I found. Brian Greene, The Hidden Reality. I forget how I learned about this book. Author of The Elegant Universe and the Fabric of the Cosmos. The Hidden Reality. Okay, this is an interesting book to read. And there's another book that is very, very important. I just don't know where the book is at the moment, but I'm going to look for it. Give me a moment here. Okay, I'm still looking. It's funny because it's been so long since I read these books that I don't recall which book had the information in it that that had the information in it that I'm thinking of, that helped me put this puzzle together that I'm speaking of today and sharing with you. But it comes from many places, okay? The information comes from many, many sources. But I'm going to show a couple. I don't know if these audiobooks are the ones, but this is just a couple that I have as well. Super Normal. Okay, that's a book. An audiobook. I usually get audiobook when available. And then this one's called Warped Passages. So I don't know that these have, this information we're talking about energy, but this is just some places that this is some of the material that I've studied that's a part of, my research. And I'm going to keep looking because I feel like there was another book, and I thought I had them all together, but apparently I have them in different places. So what I'll do is when I come back, I'll put my hand in front of here so you know I'm back. That way you can just fast forward to me coming back. I'll do that. Oops. Okay, I'll be right back. Or I'll be back in a few minutes. Oh, here's some other sources too. Let me show you these books too. Let's see. There's a book called Hidden Energy, Quest for Zero Point Energy, Tapping the Zero Point Energy, Water, the Key to New Energy, Breakthrough Power, Sea of Energy, Anti-Gravity of the Dream Made Reality. Okay, so let's show you these books too. Let's show you these books as well. There's so many books though. Paramagnetism, electrostatic motors, electrostatics, new sources of energy. But here's some other books too. So look, if you want to see about the energy in space that's everywhere, I mean, there is so much energy. But look, here's a book here. It's called, so it's by John Moray, and it says, The Sea of Energy in Which the Earth Floats. Okay? So that's a book. This is a good book here. Anti-Gravity, The Dream Made Reality. And there's a documentary on this too. It's really good. John A. Thomas Jr. Okay. Let me back the phone up so you can see better here. Here's another book. Breakthrough Energy, or Breakthrough Power. How Quantum Leap New Energy Inventions Can Transform Our World. Okay. Keep this awake. Manly and Joe Garvin. Okay, here's another book. Water, the Key to New Energy. Cavitating electrolyzers in Zero Point Energy. See how we're talking about zero point energy here? Look at this. Tapping the zero point energy. I mean, do you think there's no energy there, really? The internet makes it sound like there's nothing there, right? So why are we going to tap into nothing? There's energy there. Megawatts in every cubic centimeter, which is the size of a sugar cube, right? So this is how free energy and anti-gravity might be possible with today's physics. Moray B. King, hear that? So we can even use today's physics possibly to understand free energy. I think everybody would like that, right? What's this one say? Quest for Zero Point Energy. Engineering Principles for Free Energy. Moray B. King. And here's Hidden Energy. Tesla-inspired inventors and a mindful path to energy abundance. So this is a few books. Okay, I'm gonna go look one more time for the other book I'm thinking of, and I'll wave my hand like this when I come back, so you know I'm back. That way you can fast forward. Okay, I'm back. I'm back now. I could not locate the other book that I was looking for, but essentially what I do is I study everything I can. Like when you read books, you're gonna hear like, okay, I found out a lot about a lot of people. A lot of people that I studied that were very helpful was by studying Moray B. King. So the gentleman that wrote the book Moray B. King, that gentleman, I was watching his videos on YouTube, and he had so much information. And then he said who to look into. He said, look at this book, look at that book, look at this author, look at that author. I bought every book he mentioned, every single book he mentioned. And when you study those books, it's going to expand. Right, because this kind of requires you. What the internet seems like it's doing is it's sending us over to like categories of understanding. Right, when it says principles of quantum mechanics or 0-point energy results from principles results from principles of quantum mechanics. It results from nature. It results from material universe. So I don't know why I don't understand this when we say, oh, go look under this man-made perception. It's making it sound like the man-made perception created the 0-point field. Am I wrong? It says results. The 0-point energy results from something humans made. No, it doesn't. That's not how it works. Humans did not create the universe that I know of. Goodness. Oh boy. I don't know. Okay, let's look at this. This says Bedini RPX. There's a lot of things I don't understand. I'll tell you that right now. I actually know very little. If more people shared what they know, and I think they are, but I'm just saying I'm encouraging everyone to share what you've learned in the simplest words you can think of. The Bedini Rife Priori Device History and Schematics. So that's this book. It says this edition includes 2 DVDs of the original John Bedini lab demonstration interview. Very interesting. Right, it's all very interesting, really. Pumping with longitudinal EM waves, time reverses the mass. Ooh, hear that? Time reverses the mass? That sounds really good. That sounds like we're talking about reversing aging right there. Maybe Aubrey de Grey might be interested in this. He's interested in reversing aging. I think I can't think of the gentleman's name right now. There's a gentleman he sells a lot of technology. I just don't know. I don't know the names of everything. Now this series, I don't know if this is available anymore. I'm really hoping that the Library of Congress has a copy of this. And all libraries need a copy of this, all libraries, for research purposes. So anyone that has a copy left of this, I hope there can be a way to get this into libraries throughout the world so that it can be studied, because Energy from the Vacuum is a series, a science series. It's the video form of the book, Thomas Bearden's book, Energy from the Vacuum. And I'll get that book right now. Let me show you that book right now. Let's see, Tom Bearden, Energy from the Vacuum. Here's Tom Bearden, Energy from the Vacuum book. So this is the book version. Look how big this book is of the DVDs. And there's a lot of information in this book. Excuse me, and I mean a lot of information. And this was openly shared on the internet, all this information. But I think what happened is there was no one to maintain it, to keep it going. Like Bruce De Palma, I think he somehow has people running his website still. Although I do find it very strange when I go to his website and it made it sound like I think someone wrote the jury's still out on whether the system worked or not, or how good it worked. That's very strange to me, because anyone can see by spinning magnets in space you can draw power from it. So I don't know who's maintaining that Bruce De Palma's website right now. That made no sense at all. Because anyone that worked with him would know his system worked. I mean, he demonstrated it throughout his life. Let's look at Energy from the Vacuum right now. Oh, I think the computer went to sleep. How do I wake it up, though? I don't know if I turned it off or on right now. Okay, I'm trying to get that to start up again. So, so let's look at Tom Bearden's book real quick. We could go through Tom Bearden's book. Energy from the Vacuum is Energy from the Vacuum series. It'd be fun to go through that, and talk about it as we go through it together. But maybe the book would be a good place to start. So I'm just going to read the... what I'll do is I'll read the... what is this called on the book? The table of contents on the book here. I'll read the table of contents to you on Tom Bearden's book here, on the book Energy from the Vacuum. Okay, and as you can see here, this is the Energy from the Vacuum science series. which is absolutely critically important to education. And I mean, it's extremely important, okay? Extremely important. So all educational facilities need this. So here we have overview. Right, because we're trying to advance our philosophy and science beyond their infancy stages, right? And not for perverse uses, like not for destroying each other. So disc 2, let's see what disc 1 was. Disc 1 said, part 1, Energy from the Vacuum Science Series Overview with T.E. Bearden, Thomas Bearden. And then this says, disc 2 is, it says 2007. It says John Bedini. Okay. Here's part 3. Part 3 says, Energy from the Vacuum Science Series, The Chung Experiment, CHUNG. And then here we have part 4 is Howard Johnson, Magnetic Exchange Force Pioneer. Okay, that's disc 4. And then disc 5 is Hidden Electrodynamics. Does that sound interesting? Hidden electrodynamics, right? The final secret of free energy with Tom Bearden. Yeah, this needs to be in every library, every school library, as a reference where people can watch it there, right? And it needs to be not on DVDs, but loaded into a system where it can't be lost, and then have a backup on DVD as well. But it needs to be protected, right? This needs to be protected. Okay, let me make sure I get the computer going here, because this thing turned off on us. It went to sleep, and then I had to restart the computer. Let's see if it lets me reload my page I had open. Restore. Okay, it let me restore everything. Good. Very nice. Okay, so we're here. Disc 6 is Energy from the Vacuum Science Series, Inside Radiant Energy. See that? And that's why I write oftentimes radiant free energy, because John Bedini, who's a master of the universe, master of energy, said that he thinks of it as radiant energy, right? Radiant free energy is the correct terminology, right? Radiant free energy, right? So I say radiant free energy research. And what's this here? It's a coil, and it has multiple windings of wire, and I think one of those wires motors this wheel, which has magnets every 5 inches, right? And these are all norths facing the magnetic coil with a ferrous iron core, right? And I'm not sure if this one's a solid iron core or if he's using the welding rods because they worked better, right? The welding rods with the ferrous metal. And then the magnets are spaced out, I think, every 5 inches. One magnet every 5 inches. Not neodymium for this design, right? And the north, all north facing the coil. And so one of these windings will be a motoring, make this turn, and then all the other coils are picking up the pulses of the magnets, right? And those charge the battery. And it's called, I think that's called impulse technology. I could be wrong about that, but I think impulse is the word that comes to mind. And then that charges the battery in pulses. And those powerful pulses are really good at charging the battery, right? But I also wonder, these are all north magnets, right? All north. Could we just have 2 magnets on a smaller wheel that spun faster, right? So it's got a small wheel that fits in my hand. It's like my hand, size of my hand. And on the top, up there, is a north magnet facing up, and on the bottom is a north magnet facing down. And when it passes that coil, could that just be a small version of that, right? And that still work? Now, disc 7 is the famous disc that it says Dialogues with John Bedini, right? And it says Tesla. Oh, look what it says. Tesla impulse technology. That's significant, right? Using the impulse to charge batteries. DVD time 90 minutes, NTSC format. Now it's true that the discs, I had so much trouble with these discs. They didn't want to play right. Oh goodness, it was so much trouble, with the discs. So much trouble. They were constantly not playing correctly. So I don't know why that is. I don't know what was wrong with that. And I had told the company when I bought these, if you get a copy that just plays good, please send it to me. Because these were expensive, and they don't just play. A lot of them will not play or get stuck a lot. You have to keep pressing play, and I had to download this special program to make it play, and it was frustrating, But I was able to get through everything, and I wrote everything down. I have notes of all these discs, multiple copies everywhere. It's supposed to be good to just have lots of copies of things, not just where you live, but at many places. So I wrote notes on everything that was said in all these discs. It was probably a couple hundred hours of information, or of me studying. I'll say it's a couple hundred hours of study. Oh, I'm not reading these to you. So we stopped at, I think I stopped reading them at 7. So 7 was Tesla Impulse Technology. Then what's disc 8? Part 8 is Challenging the Second Law of Thermodynamics, okay, with Dr. Daniel Sheehan. I think he's a teacher at in San Diego, a professor. Dr. Daniel Sheehan. This is 2009, so he was a professor in San Diego, if I recall correctly. He talks about the laws of thermodynamics. He pointed out very well that all laws in science are actually theories and principles. They are theories and principles. That's it, and they're updated often. Okay, but they're not. It's not well, it's a theory and principle. That's it. That's what it is. This says the Cromray converter. Disc 10. Oh, this is interesting, right? That's from a spaceship right there. That can power a spaceship. I think that's what was told to John Bonini. Isn't that interesting? And it's so simple. I know everybody says that. That's a full wave bridge rectifier on top right there. All it is it's a variation of. Oh, I have it in a drawing. Actually, I'll just show it to you. I think it's this one. This is a simplified version of it, basically. But there's 2 more of these. See this here and this here? There's also one here on this side and one on the back side. But in this drawing, it just shows 2. But this would also work. It's just that having more magnets makes it even more efficient, right? If you have them over here and on the other side. So what happens here is this is where you pull the energy off that's coming out of these wires. This is all one. These coils are connected. This comes across and connects here. And we have a north, a south, and a north. These are magnets, right? These are just coils with a ferrous iron core. For this to work, this has to be non-ferrous. This rod, this bar, cannot have a magnet stick to it, okay? This does. This part can be ferrous metal, or has to be ferrous metal, I think. But this rod cannot be, or it changes the flux fields, and it won't work right. It won't work at all. And this is where we extract the energy from, those pulses. And where do you think it charges the battery? If we're using this as a battery charger, where do you think it charges the battery? He called this a G-fuel generator. I think it's the same one that we just looked at there. You have to confirm this all for yourself by watching the DVDs. If you can watch them, hopefully you can. But look what it's doing. It's pulsing this coil with a north and a south at the same time, and then this coil down here with a north and a south at the same time, and it's the opposite as the top one, right? It's the opposite. And there's a significance to that. There's something about that that's very powerful. And I think this can be done probably in a solid state version where it's not having to spin, and you just have to have the orientation of the north and south correct. And this would charge a battery. We could probably charge a battery. I'm guessing, just a guess, that we can charge a battery that, well, for a couple things. One is bring a battery back to life that can't take a charge anymore, right? Not 100% of the time, but oftentimes. Or let's say it's a battery that's losing capacity and you want to bring the capacity back. I think this would help do that. But I also think this could possibly be used to charge a battery as a range extender to help keep a battery charged that actually is powering the circuit. The thing is, if we're using lithium, we have to make sure we never overcharge the battery, so the voltage can never go past full. And also have to make sure that that it doesn't burn out the BMS, the battery management system. So this is the output right here, these two. We have to have brushes touching these, right? Because this thing's spinning, this whole bar is spinning, this whole thing's spinning right here, this whole area is spinning. And I don't think it matters which way it spins, but I know that the way it spins can have different results, spinning it counterclockwise versus counterclockwise. So test both, okay? Because spin does make a difference. It really does. I think spin affects polarity for one. I think it also affects like how easy it is to spin, right? So I think this can help act as a range extender. If something like this was used to charge a battery, the pulses, right, every time it passes these magnets, and it charges between magnets, not when it hits the magnet. When this hits the magnet, that's not where it charges. It's when it passes it. And John Bedini said everybody thinks when it goes to the magnet, that's when it charges the battery, right there when it goes to the magnet. In which case you would think, well, let's put continuous magnets, right? I mean, I would think that. But it actually charges between the magnets. So then it can look like, well, let's have less magnets, right? But John Bedini found that 5 inches, I think approximately 5 inches of space between magnets was a good distance, a good time period, right? For it to have a rest. Not a rest, but to let the battery charge, if we say it that way. So these are just notes here. And I don't know for sure this is the one we were looking at in the disc there, but I think it possibly is. You have to study it yourself. I do think that's the one, though. I think that's this one right here, where they said they called it the Crom-Ray converter. But there was something called a G-field generator, and I'm not sure if this was that or that's something else. Magnetic gates. Dialogue with John Bedini. Magnetic gates, right? Very interesting, right? And then look who we see now. We see Howard Johnson lab notes. Introduction by Thomas Bearden. And this is part 11A. And then we have part 12, copyright 2009, Energetic Productions LLC, DVD time 94 minutes, NTSC format. It says Petrovoltaics in the Faraday motor, dialogue with John Bedini. Here we have electrodynamics, its origins, history, and struggles with Thomas Bearden. And it has an equation right here. I don't know if you can see that. VPF equals LLLT equals E equals PR. What's this say? The Lockridge device, dialogue with John Bedini. I don't know what that is at the moment. It's been a while since I studied this. Seeking Over Unity, Rosenthal Memoirs, it says. Equilibrium, Entropy, and Energy. Defining Moments, featuring Thomas Bearden, with an appearance by John Bedini. Okay, let's see what else there is. And then here we have the tape drive motor with John Bedini and Rick Friedrich. Oh, Rick Friedrich. Rick Friedrich. Remember Rick Friedrich? Rick Friedrich. What else is here? Transmutation, Lifting the Veil. Dialogues with John Bedini. Now remember, when you think about free energy, everyone's going to attack it, right? A lot of people are going to attack it. There's such like perversion in education, you know, when it comes to trying to learn about and discuss free energy, which is just extremely energy systems, right? Extreme efficiency energy system. Cold heat from Canada, right? Cold Heat from Canada documents. The Sejaka files. Dialogue with John Bedini. The Sejaka files. Cejka files. This has like lots of different inventions, right? The Sejaka files documents. There's a lot of inventions on there about just inventions throughout history, right? Now that's just one disc, and there's three. I mean, that's just one of these. That's just one of these. And there's three of those, right? There's three of those. So, there is another book over here, a small book I want to show you. Let's have a look at this real quick. Okay, this is the secret world of magnets. All right. Okay, we have here the secret world of magnets. And who is this? The father of spintronics, Howard Johnson. And it says from Shineri Press. That's Howard Johnson right there. And that man experimented with magnets. And he could make a system. Howard Johnson made a system where the magnet, it's what we see today. You know, we've all seen the magnet motors that go, and people have proven that they work. So we know that, but Howard Johnson's one of the first people that did it. And now we have, you know, a lot of examples of people achieving that now all over the world. I'm not aware of any that we can just buy, but a lot of experimenters have achieved the building of magnet motors. And it has a lot to do, I think, with the shielding, the way that you shield and focus those fields, right? Those magnetic fields. But Howard also could, I think it appeared that he was doing it without shielding sometimes by just manipulating the fields by connecting magnets together. So like we all know, there's always another way to do something, right? So there's actually many ways to make magnet motors where they just keep spinning because there's that force there. It's a free force, right? Magnets, Don Smith said that magnets, if I recall correctly, the magnets absorb energy from the sun. I don't know if Don Smith said that or I just read it somewhere, but magnets absorb energy from the sun because the sun makes electron pairs, right? That's what Don Smith was saying. Donald Lee Smith was saying that the sun makes electron pairs, and magnets contain electrons, right? That's my understanding. And so we can access that energy from the magnets, and the magnets instantly replenish themselves, and you can just keep getting that energy out. Now, if a magnet had to be recharged or whatever after 100 years, I'm okay with that, you know, because someone could say, oh, well, the magnet's going to wear out one day. Well, of course it is, and that's fine, right? If we can extract energy from it for 100 years, that's fine with me. So, again, we're not focusing on what we can't do. It's all about focusing on what we can do. So everyone that's focusing on, like, you can't do that, I invite everyone to study all this material and start building things and shift the attention off of telling people they can't do stuff because they're going to do it anyway. As you see, the world moving forward progressively, extremely fast, right? But we have to support each other and help each other. See these, look at these fields. These are the magnetic fields. Look at this. Isn't that interesting? Discovering Magnetism, the Permanent Magnet Research Institute. How's that sound? Sound good? The Permanent Magnet Research Institute. That sounds interesting, right? So here it says, description of book, Howard Johnson, History of Knowledge of Magnets, Dr. Bayer, description of magnet, conventional versus discovery, simple illustration of direction of lines of force, computer illustration, black and white, single plane only, explanation of two partial theory, application 92 pole generator, application wire conducting DC current, simple illustration, computer black and white graphics, computer color illustration, spins are vortices, it says. Spins are vortices, simple illustration, computer graphics, black and white illustration, Colorado alongside, layers, inside, outside, attraction and repulsion within a magnet and between magnets, computer graphics showing curved magnet, computer color illustration, corner spins, simple illustration and pictures, computer color illustrations, gate, simple illustration and pictures, computer color illustrations, making use of the time asymmetric qualities of permanent magnets, mapping methods, Howard R. Johnson, bibliography, introducing Magwind, Magwind, Magwind. Who discovered magnets? So anyway, this is the book here. We can go through this sometime. I don't know if that's still available. I don't know what books are available anymore. Because the company, I'm not sure that anybody's remains to keep it going, that company going. So anyway, I'm going to take a break and I'll come back and we'll look more at 0-point energy. But look, the thing is, I'm going to start making a lot of videos on talking about the 0-point field powering the material universe and the material universe powering the 0-point field. And that energy, so our homes are charged at 60 cycles per second, right? That's the power, that's the frequency we have. But the universe is powered by 10 to the 120th cycles per second. And my understanding is the material universe is powered by an infinite potential 0-point field. And that infinite potential 0-point field is quantified. We've quantified it as an approximation, I think. This is all based on experimentation, right? It's been quantified to have 10 to the 40th times more energy than the material universe. So what I'm saying is, imagine two different kinds of energy. The material universe energy, because the material universe is pure energy, right? And then the 0-point field pure energy. Now, Einstein said that his equation E equals mc squared that's an equation. One of the ways of understanding that equation is that equation is an indicator directly and literally of how much energy it takes to create matter. So if you want to know how much energy it takes to create matter and sustain the material matter universe, we can look at E equals mc squared, and then we know how much energy is coming in from the 0-point field to sustain the material universe. But the interesting thing also is that the material universe powers the 0-point field entirely. And you want to talk about an over-unity system? The 0-point field has 10 to the 40th times more energy than the material universe. That's beautiful, isn't it? So if you study Thomas Bearden, among many others, you'll come to your own way of understanding and seeing what I have shared with you today. But what I do is I don't exclude anyone. I study all things that make sense, right? That make sense to me. Now, when things tell me, oh, go look at this, go look at that, and I'm going in big circles, right? Because I've done it. I've done this. And it's the guy that said in that other description where he said it takes many years of study. He wasn't kidding. Because when I tried to study these things, I felt like I was going in circles. I was getting dizzy, right? I would look up quantum, whatever they said to look at and specialize in, I would study that. And then that would tell me to study something else. And that would tell me to study something else. And there's so many things. I felt like I was going in big circles, getting dizzy, right? And look what I just said to you in less than 20 seconds or in less than a minute. I just said the material universe powers the 0-point field. The 0-point field powers the material universe entirely. All subatomic particles that make up atoms, right, are directly interacting with and powered by the 0-point field directly. Right? How come my hand is not going through this computer when I touch it? This computer is 99.9% empty space, right? It's because there's force fields there. right? This force field. You ever heard every action has an equal and opposite reaction? If I'm pushing on this, that sounds to me like it's pushing back. Where does that energy come from? I think it comes from the 0-point field. Where else would it come from? Okay, everyone, we'll see you in the next video, and I look forward to hearing your simple explanations of how this beautifully simple universe works. I'm trying to think of the saying. There's a saying that when things are overly complicated, I think the word is sometimes used convoluted, right? It's like very, very complex. I don't know, that doesn't seem like nature to me. I think nature is quite simple in its complexity, if I say it that way. I had to study a lot to get to the perception and that I share with you. But once I understand it, it seemed to resonate well. I don't feel nausea in my stomach, so my gut brain is telling me this is correct and that we're on the right path. Now, again, this is just the beginning. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.